But Aladdin. Talk to us about Aladdin. SNES or Sega Genesis?
All right. Okay.
All right, yo, welcome and thank you for tuning in once again to the Die or Pass Level podcast, the gaming podcast that remembers. Tokens are in, and I've hit start on this bad boy. Let's get this show on the road. I'm your player one, Ray, and with me as always is the Crunchberry Denier, the Chopstick Cereal Connoisseur. You know him, you love him. He grew up in the woods. Say hello to TDK. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Listen, in the woods, we don't eat crunch berries. We just eat real berries. We can't afford crunch berries in the woods. But the chopsticks, that's just me being classy, all right? That's just me trying to elevate my standing in life from a young age. Captain Crunch all day, man.
Own it, you know? Some people eat their cereal with chopsticks, and you just got to be proud about it.
Listeners, see previous episode.
All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring our guests right in. The sound check is done. Our opening set is short and complete. It's time to unleash our headlining act. You might see today's guest rocking a sick bass lick out in the mean streets of NYC, or you might catch him online with the rest of the gaming community, looking back fondly at classic gaming gems, or looking forward to future legendary titles. He rocks hard and geeks even harder. Everyone say hello to Mike Staub, aka Bad Mikey of Bad Mary. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. I'm doing all right. I'm excited to talk to you guys about wherever we go on this wild trail today. I'm happy to be here. This is awesome.
We're gonna start this wild ride by going straight into our time machine. Hang on tight. Here we go. Whoa! All right, we're here. Mike, tell us a little bit about the first game you ever played. Where were you? Who was there? Give me your gaming origin story right here and right now, the whole 9 yards.
It's funny. This is my earliest memory. It had to have been 1980. I know I'm going into the 80s, folks. So you can start doing the math. 1988. And I was at my grandparents' house in Queens. I think my aunt had purchased me the NES with the controllers and the zapper. I had a gray zapper. I didn't have one of the cool orange ones. I had a lame gray zapper, but I still have it.
Was that off-brand? I didn't even know they made gray zappers.
I think it was the gray one came with the console. I still have it.
TDK, you have the red zapper, and in your world, you think the gray zapper doesn't exist?
Hey man,
that's the stock, man. What are they doing out there in the woods?
Only red zappers.
All right, guys, I'm gonna try to taper back my Long Island accent as much as I possibly can.
We don't care, dude.
But a Mario may slip out, and I apologize. So just gonna let you know. Okay, so I've got family members who pronounce it that way. It's all that thing.
Fair enough. Thanks for the warning.
I'm an Italian kid from Long Island. It is what it is. I got Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt on the same cart. My oldest cousin was setting it up. I was a young kid, and I remember picking up the zapper and thinking like, oh, I shoot the guy running on the screen, not realizing that was a separate game.
I've never heard anybody say that, but now that you say it, of course, that guy's moving across the screen.
You were LARPing as Bowser. Get the plumber!
I remember trying to do that, realizing that's not how this game was played. That same year, Super Mario Brothers 3 had come out later on and into 89, 90, right? I remember getting that. I had Zelda 2 very early on, Kung Fu.
Ooh. Kung
Fu Master, Spartan X, whatever we're going to call it. And I was a little young to fully experience the peak of the NES heyday, because I wasn't old enough to understand the kind of like gravity, right, of the situation and how it was like this all-encompassing thing that everyone had to have and had to play, because I was a little young. But I loved my NES. I still have my original NES, actually, hooked up to a Commodore 64 monitor. That's the best way to play an NES, is through a Commodore 64 monitor. It looks unbelievable. Super Nintendo was really where I found my footing. The Super NES comes out in 91. I was 5 years old. I got it for Christmas that year with Super Mario World and a couple other games. My wheelhouse starts with the Super Nintendo and goes through like the PlayStation 1. I kind of hopped consoles because by the time the PS1 came out, the type of games that were coming out were like the games I was playing on Super Nintendo. And while I love the N64 and I love what it does and I love what it represents, I definitely played more PlayStation. I didn't play the original Zelda till like later on, because in those days it was like, you got what you got. You got a video game maybe on your birthday and maybe for a holiday. And if it was bad, oops. Like I remember getting Fester's Quest one year, not kid friendly.
It's better than not having Fester's Quest though, right?
That is true. That is true.
I didn't hear any Sega conversation in there, Mike. What's going on with Sega?
I didn't have a Master System until much later in life. I have a Master System now. I've kind of accrued a lot of stuff over the years. I got a Genesis the year after I got the Super Nintendo. So I probably got a Genesis in like 92. Came with Sonic the Hedgehog. I played Sonic 1, 2, and 3, Sonic and Knuckles, the first ever physical DLC
Classic.
or whatever. I still think that might be my favorite Sonic game.
Something about as a kid, you were like building blocks video game and it's a physical plus a virtual. It just blew your mind.
It was so cool, and it was like it gave so much more life to Sonic 3, which is a game I already loved. Though I do like Sonic Mania, but that's another conversation for another time or later in this conversation. My brother and I, we were good kids. We did well in school. We worked hard. We did a lot of fun, creative stuff. My parents were always very generous with game consoles and stuff like that because they knew we loved it, and we shared everything. My brother and I learned early on, it's like if we share our consoles and our games, we'll have double. We played everything. We played a lot together. I think for my communion, I got the Sega CD sidecar.
I had a Genesis and I had a Saturn, but I never had the Sega CD.
The Sega CD is cool. If you can get your hands on one, I suggest you do so.
Knuckles is the first physical DLC. Would we call the Sega CD maybe the first Plus system? It's like the PS4 Plus, PS5 Plus.
Kinda, because there were a bunch of games that were on Sega Genesis that were also on Sega CD, right? I remember playing Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. It had animated cutscenes on Sega CD, which was really cool. I'm a big Spider-Man guy. Spider-Man versus the Kingpin was really good. Or a game that I liked because, superhero games weren't great yet, except for maybe NES.
Whatever you could get. The Sinister Six one was fine too. I had that one.
Yeah, not bad.
Anything that resembled Spider-Man would be okay.
I'd buy it. Maximum Carnage. My band played with Green Jello. I had the singer, Bill Manspeaker, sign my Maximum Carnage, my red cartridge. I brought it to the event and I'm like, hey, and he looked at it and he's just like, yeah, every show.
He's like, yeah, fifth one today.
yeah. Mortal Kombat was really good on Sega CD. Final Fight was really good on Sega CD. I would highly suggest you play a game called Snatcher. Snatcher is what Kojima did after the first two Metal Gear games. And it is a visual novel adventure game that is like a mix of Blade Runner and Terminator. I'm not kidding. It's like $700 if you try to get hands on a physical copy.
Pretty gnarly, right? It gets pretty gruesome in some places.
Yeah, it's got some of that 80s kind of... It's weird because Kojima is so good at combining American film with Japanese sensibility and Japanese storytelling. So it's like he'll make something that feels like Akira, but this is the guy from Escape from New York. It's this interesting way of combining them. I think you can use a light gun with it too, because you have to like shoot robots. I did it with the controller when I played it. I didn't have a Saturn, which is stupid because I am a giant fighting game fan. I remember playing X-Men versus Street Fighter on the PlayStation and just being so upset that I couldn't tag people in for like real and play like the real arcade version. The Saturn versions of those games are like arcade
perfect.
Arcade perfect.
Yeah. My older brother had a friend who was the Sega friend, also a fighting game guy. My brother and him would go to the liquor store after high school every day to play War of the Gems, Marvel superheroes or whatever.
Yeah.
He finally got a Sega Saturn and we were able to go to his house to play X-Men versus Street Fighter with tagging. It felt incredible to be able to do that at home.
I play X-Men versus Street Fighter on Saturn, like on the regular. Fighting games for me have always been very cathartic. And for me, just a really good decompression engine. When anyone ever asks, they're like, hey, why do you play video games so much? Why do you like them so much? And for me, it's always about the escapism and the decompression engine. I have a very busy, stressful life in a good way. I'm never complaining. I love everything I do. Being able to like come home and just go somewhere weird and different and far away and get lost for an hour or 2 hours is therapeutic. I worked at GameStop for a handful of years when I was in college and I loved my time there. But by the end of my time there, I was just kind of so over retail in general at the time. No offense to anyone who works retail. It's great if you love it. But for me at that point, it was like I was at the end of it. Street Fighter 2 was like one of the only games I could play. So fighting games was like the things I would go back to and go back to and go back to. But yeah, I'll play X-Men versus Street Fighter with the tagging and all that stuff. Just it feels like you're playing the arcade.
In terms of UI design and just overall design and aesthetic, for me, I think I might give it to X-Men versus Street Fighter. The soundtrack, the character select screen, the menu, the announcer, the victory screen, all of that just feels so good in X-Men versus Street Fighter. Just blew my mind when I first saw it.
I remember seeing it at an arcade here where I grew up, and it was like every few years they would like transition out what the big game was and bring bring whatever the next big game in. And when I was in like 5th grade, everything was Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. They probably had 20 of those machines. But then like a year or so later, I remember seeing X-Men versus Street Fighter and going, whoa, what is this? Because not only it's like I grew up watching the X-Men cartoon, that was like formative. It was instrumental. Reading those X-Men comic books at that time as they were coming out, having the characters that look like the cartoon versions of those characters that are based off the Jim Lee art in a video game.
And the voices, right?
They had the voice actors crossing over with like Street Fighter, which for me at the time was like the biggest thing ever. Obviously they used the anime style alpha art, which I really like. The weirdest thing I've ever seen, but also like I need this in my veins, you know? I couldn't get enough of it. When they put Mega Man in Marvel vs. Capcom, I was like,
that was definitely a mind-blowing thing to see for the first time. Mega Man and Marvel 1, Captain Commando, Strider, they really like nailed it for that roster in Marvel 1 for sure.
Absolutely. I still love MVC 1. Funny enough, I have like coasters, MVC coasters that are on my desk.
I can hear that picture, dude.
Clash! I was always a Mega Man guy. I'm a Nintendo fan, probably first and foremost, but after that, if anyone asks me like, who do you think the best developer is ever, I would make an argument that Capcom's the best third-party developer. I played all those games. Mega Man X is one of my favorite games like ever. I'm not good enough to speedrun, but Mega Man X is like one of the only games where like I understand the philosophy of how to do it and like can beat it quickly. Then bringing Mega Man into the fighting game stuff was like, oh, well, this is super, super cool. And I had yet to be introduced to the Darkstalkers at that point.
Right.
So that was also a gateway for me too, because like, oh, who's Morrigan? What's she from? I'm going to play those too. My wife doesn't play a lot of video games, but she will play fighting games with me, and she like loves Vampire Savior. There we go. There she is.
That was crazy. Do you think you saying that turned it on my phone?
Maybe.
That was the weirdest thing that's ever happened.
Well,
I'm a little like spooked out.
I'm talking about her, so that's probably why.
I swear to God, that wasn't planned.
Honestly, it's poetic. I love it. But we'll play Vampire Savior or Darkstalkers 3, or we'll play Marvel vs. Capcom, or like Super Mario Kart, or whatever Mario Kart we're playing at that point in time.
Super's
so,
a
like,
good one.
Super's great.
I
Mode 7
have a
is...
history of playing Super Mario Kart with my spouse too, and it's like classic cocktails in Super Mario Kart.
That's like the cool thing about being an adult is like you can have fun gatherings with other adults still engaging with the stuff you grew up. Like, I don't know if this is uniquely a millennial thing. I've noticed that among my friends, it's like we didn't really get rid of the stuff we liked. We didn't shed that. We've learned to kind of
incorporate it.
Yeah. And like enrich our lives with still celebrating the stuff we like because it brings us joy, whether that be video games, comic books, anime, manga, movies, science fiction, superheroes, all that stuff. So like my wife was never a gamer, but like I've introduced her to some video games and I've introduced her to like anime and stuff like that. She watches more anime and reads more manga than plays video games. It's been really cool to like be an adult and like have your friends over and play Mario Kart. And if they have kids or younger cousins come over, it's
totally.
Like everyone can play. It's really fun where some like 15-year-old niece, nephew, cousin thinks they can beat you in Smash Brothers and then just gets destroyed. So
it's the gift that keeps on giving for sure. I don't get to play in bands as often as I used to or as often as I'd like to, but once a year for my kids' school fundraiser, a parent band gets formed and we rehearse. And so I was at rehearsal yesterday and the kids were there. I could overhear them talking about like, I cooked you at this game. And I'm like, what game are you talking about? You know, the one with the big guy and he like hits you really fast. I'm like, you talking about E Honda? Yeah, but he's cheating because E Honda's the strongest character in the game. I'm like, you guys got a lot to learn. Yeah, I take great joy, and I'm always just like, whenever you want to. I will not pull any punches. I want to show you what this looks like, and then if you want to come and find me and learn, I will gladly teach you. And that's kind of where we're at with these kids right now. I just want to train them.
But that's the best, right? Seeing younger folks get as like into this stuff as we were is so cool. I work with a group called Long Island Retro Gaming. We do an expo convention every single year by where I live here on Long Island. Some of the most rewarding moments are when like a family will come in and there'll be little kids running around and they're like completely in awe of this stuff. Some of them know everything. Like they know it inside and out. They play it with their folks or they play it with their older cousins or they found it on their own, which is really cool. I think nostalgia is a beautiful thing. And I think what you guys do in celebrating it is can be a beautiful thing because you're sharing it with people. You're keeping it alive. It's not a physical preservation, but it's like an emotional and mental preservation, which I think is as important, if not more important. while I am someone who's like, I love the preservation of the old stuff. I have a lot of my old games. Some of them I sold because there are different points in your life where you're like, how much is that game worth? And I need to pay for my car. But I've tried to keep everything. But at the same time, I've always been such a huge supporter of re-releases, ports, collections, remakes, remasters. I've always been a huge supporter of that because availability to me is very important. While I love retro and I love having the original carts, it's really hard for a kid to pay $500 for Chrono Trigger.
It's not going to be around. It's not going to be achievable.
No, it's just unsustainable. But if you can pay $10 or $15 and you can play Chrono Trigger on Steam, or you can play, Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters on your Switch, the experience is the most important thing. Being able to experience these things as close to as intended as possible. And you know what? A lot of the games we played when we grew up, we love them. They're great. They're not bad, but they are a little obtuse sometimes. And having a little bit of those quality of life little notches, even for me as someone who's like, I don't have a ton of time to game. So like, it's nice that I can put my console to sleep in the middle of something and don't have to worry about finding a save point. The availability for games is so good right now, and I will continue to celebrate that. My favorite game of all time is Super Mario RPG Legend of Seven Stars. It's my favorite game.
It's a great favorite game.
We're speaking the same language. Whether it's the characters, the fact that it kind of feels like Final Fantasy, but also kind of feels like Super Mario Brothers. Yoko Shimomura's like music every time gets me. It's one of those things where when they announced the remake, I was obviously very, very excited. But so many of my friends who had never played it were like, oh, I'm going to play this now. You've been telling me about this game forever. I've seen you post about it all the time. I'm going to play it now, and I'm going to let you know what I think. And then so many people came back to me and were like, I'm so upset I missed this game the first time. Same thing happened last year with Final Fantasy Tactics when they remastered Tactics.
What a game.
Once again, it's another one of my top fives, My whole life have been obnoxiously loud about Final Fantasy Tactics. just guys, you got to play it. And then it came out on modern consoles. And same thing. I had friends who were like, I'm going to play it now. And I had a couple of friends who would like text me all hours of the night. All right, how do I beat Weegriff? I need to know, what do I do? What class combination would you use? And I'm like, well, you want to get a Dragoon and you want to get the double hand from the Samurai so that you can hold the spear with two hands. It's like a water cooler moment, right? It's like we have this new water cooler of texting. It was so cool to kind of have this like shared experience. And I thought that was gone because of the immediacy and the incredibly quick expiration date of how stuff on the internet works. I thought that was gone. And then last year or so, Resident Evil Requiem was a huge moment for that.
I really like what you said about like not necessarily overindulging in the nostalgia, but preserving and kind of like keeping it alive. One thing you said is like it's like about community and how fun it is to just kind of share those things that used to be fun with your friends. That's really why we do this podcast, right? We're not really here just to keep nostalgia alive. Ultimately, like I'm a single dad, Ray's a dad, and we're busy, and this is kind of an excuse to talk about video games from our past with a friend for like an hour once a week, right? And that's kind of the most beautiful thing about this podcast to me is like it's just an escape for a couple hours a week.
Yeah. And I can get into the nitty gritty details all day. I love it. But the preserving the feeling, like you mentioned, I think that's really special too. It's just like, how did you feel when your dad took you to Toys R Us and you pulled that card out? Exactly. That's kind of what it's all about for me. Just like that feeling of finding that game in your stocking that you thought your parents weren't able to get for you. I like sharing those moments more than anything.
I have a handful of those that stand out.
Yeah, give us your top couple.
All right. I'm here for it. So I know this is like the Old Spice commercial where like scent is the strongest smell tied to memory. I don't know if that's true, but I still can like smell the plastic you pulled the thing out of. So for those of you who don't know this, you would go to Toys R Us and the game would be on the wall. There would be a picture of the game on the wall, and in front of it there'd be like a little plastic envelope that you could pull this paper out of that would have the game on it with the price, and you would bring it to the counter and they would have a guy go in the back and pull it out and you get the game. And I remember that so clearly. And there's a couple of times where it stood out to me. I remember my parents picking out Zelda 2. I remember that. Gold cartridge with Link's sword on it, Adventure Link. That's a beautiful thing. It's my first experience with Zelda. So my view on Zelda is actually a little shifted because of that. I actually really like Zelda 2. And I know that sometimes is a game that people don't like as much. I remember my aunt had taken me to Toys R Us to buy me a game for Christmas. I was stuck between two games. And the two games were Spider-Man Venom, or Venom and Spider-Man Separation Anxiety, which is kind of the follow-up to Maximum Carnage, and Yoshi's Island. And for those of you who might not know this, video games back in those days wasn't uncommon for them to be 60, 70, or $80 based on the size of the cartridge. Separation Anxiety was like $70, I think. Yoshi's Island was like $50. So I felt bad, and I was just like, oh, I really want the Spider-Man game, but you know what? I'll get Yoshi's Island.
I'll get this cheap game.
Yeah, I'll get this super cheap $50 game. I'm like, I'll get Yoshi's Island instead. I ended up taking Yoshi's Island home, not sure what to expect out of it. It completely just became one of my favorite games of all time. And it's a game I love to this day. It's a game I'll go back and play. I think it's a game that's a little underappreciated.
Yeah.
I feel bad that Yoshi's games since then, while there have been some solid games, they're like, haven't gotten back to that level.
I feel like the B team is working on these Yoshi games. Not to say that, I mean, the B team at Nintendo is S tier, like in any other company, right? But this new Yoshi game looks cute. I have kids, so I have the excuse of I'm getting it for my kids, and I'm just like, yeah, let's go Yoshi.
I mean, anytime you get a Yoshi or Kirby game, you're like, it's for my kids, and then you're like, oh, these are good.
Wait, let's shout out to your aunt who was just like, let's go to Toys R Us, pick out any game you want, willing to drop $70 in like 1992. I don't even know what that equates to right now. That's crazy. In my mind, if you got Yoshi, that was Super Nintendo. But if you got that was Genesis.
No, that would have been the Super Nintendo version of that.
If you haven't noticed yet, TDK is our resident Sega childhood gamer.
Yeah, and Ray and I are on the other side. And you seems like you had kind of both ends.
So I would always make this analogy when it came to my time with the Sega consoles versus the Nintendo consoles. First of all, we want to talk Sega. Dreamcast is, for me, one of my favorite consoles ever.
I think we all.
Yeah, we're all on that boat.
I would always joke around that Nintendo and like Super Mario was like my 9 to 5, right? Okay. That's what I would play during the week. My vacation games were the Sega games that I would play in the weekend.
Sega is like very after dark.
Had all the attitude, right? I had a nice handful of Genesis games. I had Spider-Man game, X-Men, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mortal Kombat, the Sonic games. I would actually usually rent the Genesis games quite a bit. Like those were the games I would always go to like rent. It's weird. It's weird being 40 and still thinking that playing a certain game feels like I'm breaking the rules. Really? To this day, if I go and play Resident Evil, I'm like, oh, I'm being bad.
GTA? People didn't understand. The renting the Sega games, though, I remember having a Dreamcast and going back and renting NES games because they were cheap. Remember, they were cheaper. You could have them longer. Now that you say that, I didn't rent a ton of games, but I guess I did rent a lot of NES, maybe even Super Nintendo games because they were a generation previous. Mama let me get 2 or 3 versus the one PS1 game.
No, it's true. I feel like NES games might have been like $3 or $4 to rent. Many a weekend started with, we would get home from school, we'd get a pizza, and we'd rent some games. And it was such a good option because games are expensive, right? It's funny because there are games that, and this, I'm not using this as a slight, there are games that feel like, to me, to this day, they feel like a game I would have rented and just like been obsessed with for like an entire weekend or like 4 or 5 days, or like a week in the summer, right? When it was like summer and you'd rent a game and you get like 4 or 5 days out of it. There's a game called Bakaru. It's made by Good Smile, the team that made Kirby's Epic Yarn. They made Yoshi's Woolly World. For me, it was an underdog, dark horse kind of game for the year it came out. I think it's like 3 or 4 years ago now. It looks like Mystical Ninja from N64, the N64 Goemon game. My first review that I put out there on like just a text, I wasn't doing video at this point. I'm like, this feels like a game I would have rented in 1998 and I would have been obsessed with it for like an entire weekend. And there's something about that. We don't really get that anymore.
Indie games, maybe games that you pay for a service and you don't necessarily have to buy and you're like, I'll give this a shot for a couple days.
There are definitely certain games that I had flings with growing up.
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean.
Even with Game Pass though, I think there was something to the fact that you had to return this thing and you couldn't get it back for another week. There was times where like I'd go back and rent it again because I liked it so much. But if you get a game on Game Pass, it's just still there. There's something magical about knowing you have to part ways with this thing.
I mean, that's why the games were so hard, because they didn't want you to be able to beat it on a rental. Try playing Ghosts and Goblins. I mean, that game's hard in the arcade too. It's a quarter muncher. The rental market was a lot.
Enter the Lion King for SNES or Sega Genesis, right? That game. Sure. What was it? Just Can't Wait to Be King Stage. Infamous for dominating your weekend.
What's the top game that you had a fling with, that you rented multiple times, couldn't bring yourself to buy it, couldn't bring yourself to ask for it in the coveted Christmas spot? For me, in my case, would be N64 Superman, The Adventures that, there's this weird Superman game that was terrible, but I wanted to like it so much.
You just gotta keep giving it another chance. It's Superman. I'm supposed
to like this game. The box art's good.
It's got that cool Bruce Timm 90s era Superman art on it. Don't get me started on Batman the Animated Series will be here all week.
I mean,
We'll do a separate podcast.
one of
just
the
about
goats.
that
One of the
because
goats.
I have one. I have a Batman episode by episode podcast I do with my friend called Batman Tasticast. Yeah.
I'm positive I've listened to that.
This is also a hotly contested topic, and we'll just go ahead and say they're both good, right? But Aladdin. Talk to us about Aladdin. SNES or Sega Genesis?
All right. Okay. I'm
Depends on what
sorry.
you value. Let's hear about what you value.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I disagree with most people on this one.
I have a good feeling about this.
I don't know.
You're going to agree with one of us, or you're going to disagree with the other one, unless you hate both.
I think they're both good. I hope both teams have fun. I think they're both good games. I think that the gameplay is better in the Super Nintendo version because of Capcom.
Yes.
But Virgin Interactive, right?
Virgin.
The Genesis one. I mean, the sprites are way bigger. That looks better. I liked both games a lot, but I think I preferred the gameplay in the Capcom game, but I think the Genesis game looks better. Like, I'm sorry if that's like a playing both sides.
It's a little bit of playing both sides.
No. I think the gameplay on SNES Aladdin is superior for sure. It's Capcom. They know what they're doing with their platforming. Aladdin, Sega Genesis was visually stunning and still is a beautiful video game with beautiful sprites. One thing no one ever talks about that really bothers me about the Sega Genesis one. I'm not here to attack the Sega Genesis one.
This is a good point, right? You have
But
to
it
make
really
this point.
bothers me. There is like very little or no hits done. When Aladdin gets hit or when he defeats an enemy, he just kind of flashes and goes about his life. The game feel is so funny to me versus what I'm used to. And, Mega Man falls back a little when he gets hit. He flashes. He gets in that little state of stun. Sega Genesis one, even as a kid, I'm like, what's off about this? Something feels funny here.
You were playing on a deeper level, even from a kid. You were always thinking about it. He made a good point. After this debate, we were watching it somehow, or we were looking at Aladdin. You see the SNES version where he's throwing apples and he's being Aladdin. You see the Sega version where he's just mowing everyone down with a sword. And Ray was like, "You remember that part in Aladdin where he just massacres people with a sword?" And I was like, "Huh." That makes sense. That never occurred to me as a kid. I played this game 100 times. He's just killing people with swords. He never really thought about that.
It probably just looks so good that Disney was like, let it rock. We don't usually let our main characters kill people, but let's do it.
And this is 90s Disney before they were Disney of now, right? That was like when Disney was back on the upturn after they kind of bottomed out in the 80s. Roger Rabbit kind of saved the company, right? If you look into that, it's like Roger Rabbit into Little Mermaid was like, oh, Disney's back on top.
It's crazy they even made Roger Rabbit. Like I just showed it to my 5-year-old. And I had to kind of like fast forward through a couple parts because I didn't realize how terrifying that parts of that movie are, or even sexualized parts of that movie are.
I almost feel like it like doesn't get the credit it deserves all the time. People don't bring it up as much.
I hope it's coming back around. I think in cinephile circles it gets credit.
Yeah, I could see that. Mickey and Bugs Bunny on screen together.
That is bonkers.
Would
It's
that
the
be?
Marvel versus Capcom of animated movies.
It's insane.
It is.
When it comes to like memories, though, my favorite of these memories. So my parents lied to me for multiple months in 1996. Can't get this N64. No way. It's not happening. Nobody's got it. Sorry. We'll get it after Christmas. We'll figure something out. I'm sorry. We're not going to get it for you. We're not going to get it for you. And I was like, okay, I made my peace. I'm like, I'll play Donkey Kong Country 3 and I'll be fine. And Christmas morning comes. My brother and I were those kids that got up at like 3 a.m. and I felt bad for my parents because they were probably up till about 1 wrapping gifts. And it wasn't the N64 kid, but it was probably pretty close. My brother and I unwrapped the N64 and went ballistic. And my parents like had themselves a time. You want to talk about smell? I remember what the N64 smelled like when I took it out of the case. Put on Super Mario 64, and I don't know if there was ever a game that I played that completely changed the way I look at gaming like that game.
I agree. I just can't ever duplicate the feeling it gave me.
Yes. And like, I love that game and I think it's fantastic, but it's one of those things where it's like, you see this thing pop up on the internet. Oh, right. If you could erase a game from your memory, you could experience again for the first time, what game would you do it? And like, I'm always like, maybe Final Fantasy VII, but I think it's 64. It was this moment of just complete bewilderment to how it worked. How do I hold this controller? How do I get him to do things? And slowly over the course of that week being off from school, piecing it together and figuring out how to make your way through this, the world felt immense. What's funny is like I wouldn't put that on my top 5 of all time list, which is weird because the way I'm talking about it now, maybe I need to readjust. But I love that game. Like that's the thing too. It's like I always tell people, it's like, hey, just because I put out a top 5 list doesn't mean it's not going to change. I'm a pretty positive guy when it comes to talking about games on the internet, which is probably a fool's errand.
Yeah, we're running the same errand.
Yeah, I could tell. You guys are like, you're cheerful guys. You talk about this stuff with passion. It's a great thing. We haven't said anything's bad yet, which is good. I like that. For me, it's kind of like I want to celebrate the stuff I love as opposed to putting down the stuff I don't like. And just because I don't like something doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't love it and they shouldn't be able to feel that same joy I feel about the things I love. 64 is just like that game. It was crazy. It was just like totally just overcome with like, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to figure it out. We did over time. And now that game's 30 years old. And it's crazy to think that.
How much do you put that down to being the first time you explored a 3D space? Because it really was, it was different.
The silence of being outside in the field of the castle and just hearing Mario's footsteps and the birds, something about all of that was so magical, and like the genius of creating that open space for you to just learn backflips and long jumps and triple jumps and all that. It was just this playground. You'd never controlled a character like that in video game to that point. And it was magic.
It felt like nothing else. I love Odyssey. Don't get me wrong. I think Odyssey is amazing. I love Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like, I love this stuff. 64 was just kind of that, like, it blew the door down. Good luck. Have fun, because this is where we're going from here, and we're going to shoot forward into the future. And it's a great, great, great thing. And what you're saying about the design of all of it and having it all work together in this like experience with all these different sub levels and the hub world, it's what made 3D games. Like, this is how a 3D platformer works. They're still doing it like this. Astrobot has a hub world. It's like they're still doing it. Oh, the fling. So my fling, it was probably a little more than a thing. It was kind of an on again, off again kind of relationship.
But you never owned it. This is a rental situation.
No, I never owned it until much later, and I bought it from a used game vendor. Secret of Mana. I would go to the Blockbuster, and me and my best friend from elementary school would kind of trade off renting Secret of Mana. And we both had our game save files on the cartridge, and we would remember the number. Before memory cards, you had to get the same cartridge back or you wouldn't be able to continue your game.
That's crazy.
So we would write down the number and we would say, hey, can we get this Secret of Mana? And we would get it and we'd play it. And then we kind of left it in limbo for like a couple of weeks or like a month and went back to it. And whoever had the game between us deleted our save files.
Oof. I was about to say, that's putting a lot of trust in whatever kid got that copy of the game in between you and your friend, because sometimes you got no save files at all, and then sometimes you'd get that copy with, let me just see what this game looks like 14 hours in. Let me see.
Oh, man, you could do that? Oh, that's cool. I'll go back and try and make that happen.
You were playing a whole different level than me, because I was just pressing pause and hoping no one turned the console off, seeing how long this thing can run over a Sunday before I get home from church.
I'll tell you right now, you can leave them on for a long time.
Turn the TV off, but leave the console on.
I think statistically, I saw a number. You can leave a Super Nintendo on for as long as your grandma comes in and turns it off while you're away.
Statistic.
Yeah, that's the number.
Or someone catches it with a vacuum by mistake and pulls it out of the wall.
The vacuum. I forgot about that vacuum. Definitely got by the vacuum at least twice in my gaming career.
Lost my Tony Hawk 2 to that.
I lost Duke Nukem to the vacuum for sure.
Oh, to the vacuum. But that's why memory cards were so cool. When we first found out the PlayStation and memory cards, you're like, oh, I can rent a game and just keep the save file and keep renting it and not have to worry about it.
The Dreamcast with the little mini
VMU
playable.
The VMU. It's the coolest. I love the VMU.
The downside to the VMU was it was like the cost of a video game. I probably went 3 video games until I finally was like, all right, I probably need to start saving these games.
It's time.
Yeah.
What's your fling, Ray?
Dude, my fling, it was this tightrope, right? I like this game a lot, but we're never going to purchase this game. It is not good enough to buy, but it is just right in the sweet spot for us to rent it a couple of times. And it was Jalico's The Brawl Brothers, one that me and my brother would just constantly rent.
Yep. That's a good rental. Great rental.
My uncle had a Sega Genesis, so we'd rent games to play at his house. And so there was Sonic Spinball. Vector Man was another big one that we would rent to play at his house. I also like Sonic 3D Blast, which I don't think a lot of people love. I thought that game was awesome.
You know, I played it on Genesis. I ended up getting it for Saturn. I think it's a fun little game. It's a weird isometric Sonic game. It's a little quirky, and I like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, we're definitely going to do Name That Tune before we go.
Sure. I mean, I love video game music. Video game music is heavily influential on my own songwriting. Anytime I've done an interview for the band, they're like, so, you know, what are your major influences when it comes to writing songs? I give a bunch of bands I grew up listening to, but then it's always like Nobuo Uematsu, Koji Kondo, and Yoko Shimomura. Those songs are floating around in the head. I love video game music.
Anytime I can put something together that even slightly is evocative of like a video game kind of thing, I get so excited. There's a few opportunities I've had in my composing for animation world where they're like, oh, they're in an arcade in this scene. We don't really need music for it. No. Yes, I'm making music for that scene. Please, just let me make music for this scene. It's going to get buried in all the background. Nope. Let me make music for it. And I do it. And yeah, I got a little buried, but I had so much fun making it.
That's so cool. I love that.
Some of these games we've chatted about in the episode, so I have a strong feeling that you're going to do just fine. I'm going to throw a few at you, and I'm also going to throw some from previous episodes. All right, so we'll start with bum 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 bum.
That's Super Mario RPG, the regular combat music.
How about
Highway
You guys need your own podcast doing this. This is the new pod.
I legit have a shadow box art of Mega Man X and Zero fighting Vile in the ride armor right on my wall.
Talk about a moment in a video game. It was like the Mario 64 for me of that time of the SNES era.
Jump on walls.
The giant bumblebee with the machine gun stinger. I was like, dude,
so
this
good.
is
So
gnarly.
good. From jump, that game just was like, whoa.
That went on to Mega Man X4, the intro stage, and then it gives you the character select. I love that.
And Mega Man X4 is fantastic. I love that game.
All right, here we go. Another one. Bum 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 ba-dum ba-dum bum ba-dum.
That's Chill Penguin.
Chill Penguin, baby.
I've been tempted to write a song called Chill Penguin for many years.
It's a good name
So
for a
maybe
song.
I'll have to do it.
I mean, Mike, why don't you try and get Ray's number? I want to see if you can stump this guy.
I've played a lot of games in my day, but there are definitely some blind spots. Why you think I can give you another?
Let's go for it.
That's
the character select screen on X-Men vs. Street Fighter.
Yes, how about
That's Marvel vs. Capcom.
Okay, one more.
I feel like I got this one.
I can hit you with the lyrics, then you'll get it for sure.
Yes.
I can feel it coming over me. I feel it all around me.
Maybe it's because I'm just so tired. I can't put it together.
It kind of got patched out because it was the original theme for Street Fighter 4 before Super came along.
Yes, that might be part of the problem too, is that I played so much Super and Ultra Street Fighter that I haven't played Vanilla Street Fighter 4 in a long time.
Yeah.
Good one. This one is probably easy, but it's the only thing I could think of right now, and I like the bass. So I don't
know. You might need to hit me with the lead medley. Just tell me.
It's fight music, the Chrono Trigger.
My older brother was the RPG dude. I didn't play it myself.
I'm sorry I couldn't get to the lead. It wasn't meshing in my head.
It wouldn't have mattered. I think that one was one I wouldn't have gotten no matter what.
Sorry. You know, it's funny. I used to do this thing. We used to do these acoustic live streams. And in Final Fantasy VI, there's a character named Shadow. Shadow has this theme. It sounds like an Old West whistle theme.
Okay.
It goes... And we have this song we play where I would finish it on the acoustic guitar and I would start playing Shadow's theme on the guitar and whistle it. Our listeners and our watchers would just be like, oh, this thing again. My best friend would watch us every week. And this was during like the pandemic. We did a lot of this. So it was like a good way for people to like get together and like chat. And my best friend was like, what is that from? I need to know. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. It's part of the fun of this game. And he texts me 2 or 3 months later at like 2 a.m. and he goes, I think I found it. And he sent me the YouTube link to Shadow's theme from Final Fantasy VI. And I'm like, Well done. He goes, you have no idea how long I've been looking for this.
I've played the entire SNES catalog.
You
But-
created a supervillain.
Yes, I did. That was his villain origin story for sure. That was fun. I like naming that tune.
Yeah, it's fun. Some solid whistling, by the way. I think a song should start with the Proto Man. Exactly. Man,
So
I
good.
mean, I can talk to you all day, all night about video games and music and punk rock. We didn't even get into the punk rock scene and the My Chemical Romance and the Jersey of it all.
It's all good. Anytime you guys want, I'll come on. I'll chat.
I had a blast. TDK, any other words before we say our goodbyes?
No, this was really fun. I feel really lucky because I got obviously a great conversation tonight, but I also learned about a new band that I'm going to love. So I've already
thank
downloaded
you.
your guys' stuff as that
thank you.
impromptu speaker decided to play. Yeah, man, it was great talking to you, Mike.
Before you say your goodbyes, yeah, definitely plug what you're working on,
Sure.
what you're doing. Give us your socials and shout out your band.
My most active social now is Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram at _Bad Mikey _. That's where I talk about video games mostly. I also work with Long Island Retro Gaming. You can find us at LI Retro all over the internet, liretro.com, and at LI Retro on all your socials. My band is called Bad Mary. You can find us at Bad Mary Band pretty much across all the socials. We call ourselves a New York glam punk band. The band is me, my wife, my father-in-law, and my wife's professor from college. So, yeah.
What?
So I'm leaving you that
We got to get
for our next conversation.
episode.
Yes.
For real.
We've been doing original music since 2013. We've got, I think, 11 or 12 records out there, combos of EPs and full lengths. We put out a live album last year that we recorded on Long Island, where we're from, so just called Live on Long Island. Very important to stress the on, not the in. And we are working on new music now. We have a new song called Mouthful of Fire, which should be hitting sometime this spring. We're hoping that we have a new full-length album called Stitched sometime later this year or early next.
Come to LA. I definitely need to
I'd
go
love to.
check you guys out. Gonna keep listening to your music. Check out Bad Mary, everybody. Follow _Bad Mikey. We'll put all the socials. We'll put all the stuff right above Mike's head. Go ahead and do one of these.
I love what you guys are doing. I love the podcast, and just keep it up. This is awesome.
Thank you, and thank you to our listeners. Thank you, TDK. We will see you all at the next one.
Hey,
As
everybody,
always,
it's Ray
like,
here.
follow,
Just wanted to
subscribe.
thank you
We'll
for
see you
tuning into
in the next
Direcast
episode. Peace out, my
podcast.
friends.
If you want to hang out and join us for the next episode, make sure to like and subscribe. That way you're notified when our next episode releases. If you really, really, really liked it, you'd do us a solid if you left us a review. Reviews are a great way to spread the word about our podcast, and the more gamers to share these stories with, the better. All right, we'll see you next week. Have a good one. There we go.